Hello everyone. Today we will talk about the flowers of life, children. They are free from vices like anger and hatred. But believe it or not, some children have committed horrific crimes that would shock even the most hardened and professional criminals when they learn of their actions. When children break the law, they are typically tried as minors, but there are cases where courts decide to try them as adults based on the nature of their crimes. This means children can be convicted and sentenced to very long prison terms, sometimes even life imprisonment. We have prepared a list of the 15 most dangerous teenagers who were sentenced to life in prison or very long terms. We would like to draw your attention to the fact that not all of these teenagers committed crimes with malicious intent. Our goal is not only to inform you about the crimes, but also about those who made grave mistakes and paid the ultimate price in their lives. Number 15. Eddie Devine. This teenager from Jackson was sentenced to 90 years in prison. The 17-year-old was convicted on 2 counts of carjacking with a weapon and kidnapping. Devine, along with 13-year-old Remy Harvey, were accused of sneaking into a woman's car and assaulting her with a snow shovel. They kidnapped her and drove off in an unknown direction. Fortunately, the woman escaped when the boys stopped to refuel the car. Devine was arrested by Floyd police on December 20, 2014. He was sentenced to 30 years for assault, 30 years for armed robbery, and 30 years for kidnapping. The woman survived, and the criminals were punished. Number 14. Roxanne Sikorsky. Roxanne Sikorsky, 15 years old in October 2014, woke up in the middle of the night and attacked her brother. Prior to this, she had tried to run away from her parents and assaulted her other siblings. For all these crimes, Roxanne was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2016, when she was only 17 years old. Before her sentencing, Roxanne's mother went to court and pleaded for leniency for her adopted daughter. Lauren Sikorsky said she was desperate and that Roxanne needed ongoing psychological help, describing her as a fragile girl whose innocent world would be destroyed by adult prison. Roxanne was 4 years old when the Sikorsky family adopted her and 2 of her siblings from Poland after they suffered abuse from their biological parents. In her childhood, Roxanne was diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, a psychological condition where children struggle to form emotional bonds with their parents. The troubled teenager appeared genuinely remorseful in court, apologizing to her parents for not being the daughter they wanted. We often notice that the root cause of many crimes is psychological deviation. Number 13. Jessica Carlisle. Jessica Carlisle, a young girl, caused the deaths of 2 people due to reckless driving. She was 17 at the time of the incident and pleaded guilty to 2 charges in court in April 2015. Her guilty plea allowed the defense to seek a prison sentence of no more than 16 years. According to police investigators, Jessica Carlisle was driving eastbound at an intersection when her car veered off the road, struck a hospital sign, and crashed into the building itself. Her passengers, Brandon Avery and Amanda Strickland, aged 17 and 20, died due to injuries from the accident. In a police interview, Carlisle admitted to being under the influence of drugs. Police found that the car was traveling at a speed of 67 miles per hour, and there were no signs that the girl attempted to stop. No one in the car was wearing a seatbelt. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. Please wear your seatbelt and adhere to speed limits while driving. Look in all directions. Number 12. Stuart Harling. Stuart Harling was 18 when he ambushed Cheryl Moss, a 33-year-old nurse, while she was smoking in the parking lot behind St. George's Hospital. Police revealed that Stuart was obsessed with serial criminals and would have continued if not caught. In March 2012, Harling was sentenced to life in prison. The victim's husband said in a police interview, "We are relieved that this evil person was caught quickly, so no one else had to lose their life." Police discovered that Harling studied serial killer shows for hours, fantasizing about violent crimes and writing a blog about depriving a black woman of her life. Unfortunately, Cheryl Moss became his real victim when the time came to act on his sick fantasy. It's tragic that no one was able to help this young man address his psychological issues. Number 11. Dylan Schumacher. Dylan Schumacher was charged with second-degree murder and first-degree assault in connection with the death of 1-year-old Austin Smith. The 16-year-old was babysitting his girlfriend's children. For reasons unknown, he struck Smith, and it was confirmed that the child died due to injuries caused by a blunt object. The 16-year-old Dylan confessed to the murder in March 2013 during a court hearing. In court, Schumacher apologized to the victim's mother, saying he did not intend to harm Austin. The boy's mother, Ashley Smith, refused to accept his apology. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Dylan is currently serving his sentence at Clinton Correctional Facility, with parole scheduled for 2031. His sentence was reduced in February 2016 by an appeals court. This is another example of how one incident can destroy a life. Number 9. John Silva, a young man, was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for strangling his childhood friend. John Silva, who showed no reaction to the verdict, was tried as an adult and convicted of first-degree murder. The body of his victim, Jerry, was found bound at the bottom of a dumpster. Notes found near the body indicated that the victim was stripped of clothing, hands tied, mouth gagged, and eyes covered. Investigators noted that these words were written by Silva, Jerry's neighbor and friend. On March 16, 2000, the court held a session where 15-year-old John Silva sat calmly in handcuffs as the Putnam County judge delivered the verdict. The session lasted less than an hour, with brief statements from Jerry's family and friends, who asked the judge to set an example for other children by sentencing Silva to life in prison. Silva was not old enough to be considered for the death penalty. Number 8. Hyder Opal, a 14-year-old girl, was sentenced to 22 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Her mother, Barbara Opal, was living with Jerry Wayne Hyman, 64 years old, and his 99-year-old mother, whom she cared for, in order to steal $40,000. Barbara paid 5 teenagers, including her 13-year-old daughter, to kill Hyman. Jerry Hyman died after being attacked by a group of teenagers who ambushed him as he entered his home in Everett, Washington, on the evening of April 13, 2001. One teenager struck him with an aluminum bat on the head, causing him to fall. The first teenager delivered crushing blows with a large bat, while 2 other teenagers hit Hyman with small souvenir bats from the Seattle Mariners. The attack turned into savage madness when 2 teenage girls joined in, stabbing him with 7-inch kitchen knives. They took turns stabbing Hyman until he died. The teenagers cleaned the floor, placed the body in the car, and dumped the remains on the side of the road in the suburbs. A terrifying story involving a large number of perpetrators. It's hard to believe something like this could happen. Number 7. Corvois Sims. Corvois Sims was 15 years old when he attacked and killed other teenagers in 2015. Sims was sentenced to 70 to 120 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to the deaths of James Starr and Brandon Phelps. Sims bought a gun in December 2015 and left the store, believing he was going to be robbed. He attacked all the teenagers. At best, Corvois will have to serve 35 years before being eligible for parole. His lawyer stated that the boy panicked, realizing one of the teenagers had a gun. Sims told the judge he regretted everything that happened. James Martin Davis, Sims's lawyer, requested a sentence of no less than 20 years, stating that his client had no intention of committing the act. Sims had minor issues since he was 12 or 13 years old due to growing up without a father. Like many children, his role models were people on the streets. Number 6. Brenda Spencer, a 16-year-old girl who lived across from a school, was convicted of a shooting on January 29th. Brenda Spencer, age 16, killed 2 people and injured 9 when she fired at Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego from her home window across the street. The victims were Principal Burton Rack and custodian Mike Suker. 8 students and a police officer were also injured. Spencer pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and assault with a deadly weapon and was sentenced to life in prison. When asked why she did it, she famously said, "I just don't like Mondays." She also told negotiators, "It was a lot of fun seeing the kids getting shot." It's difficult to comment on such an act, but the important thing is that the perpetrator received her punishment. Number 5. Lionel Tate. Lionel Alexander Tate is the youngest known American citizen sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was convicted of brutally killing 6-year-old Tiffany in January. In Broward, Florida, Lionel Tate was 14 years old at the time, alone with Tiffany, whose mother, Kathleen, was looking after her. The children were playing, which annoyed Kathleen while she was preparing, so she sent them to another room. About 45 minutes later, Tate approached his mother and told her that Tiffany wasn't breathing. During their fight, he had grabbed her head and it hit the table. After such stories, one wishes their children had been convicted. Tate was convicted of hitting Tiffany so hard that her liver was ruptured and she had severe bruises on her legs, feet, and neck. The nature of the bruises resembled injuries caused by being hit by a car or falling from a third-story building. The judge sentenced Tate to life in prison. The prosecution's main argument was the nature of Lionel Tate's actions. This wasn't just a child's game. His actions were cold, cruel, and brutally indescribable. However, his sentence sparked criticism regarding the treatment of juvenile offenders in Florida's justice system. In 2004, Tate's conviction was overturned by the state appeals court on the grounds that his mental competency was never evaluated before the trial. Number 4. George Stinney. George Stinney Jr. was convicted of murdering 2 young girls in March 1944 at the age of 14. He attacked and took the lives of Betty June, 11 years old, and Amy Thames, 7 years old, in his hometown of Alcolu, South Carolina. George was sentenced to death and executed in the electric chair in June 1944, becoming the youngest American sentenced to death and executed in the 20th century. The trial against George took place on April 24, 1944. The jury, which took 10 minutes to deliberate, declared the boy guilty. The judge sentenced him to death by electric chair. Stinney's family appealed to Governor Olin Johnson for clemency due to his age, but the governor referred the case for reconsideration, which led to no results. Only after his death did a South Carolina court rule that he did not receive a fair trial and was therefore executed unlawfully, but it was too late. Number 3. Joshua Phillips. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was only 14 years old when he took the life of his 8-year-old neighbor, Maddie Clifton, in November 1998. Joshua, aged 14, attacked and killed his neighbor and friend. The following year, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In his explanation, Phillips wrote that he attacked Clifton to stop her crying after accidentally hitting her with a baseball during their play. Joshua was terrified of punishment from his harsh father. According to Phillips, he was home alone when Maddie, who lived across the street, came to him and asked to go out and play. He agreed, despite his father not allowing him to have friends. His parents were not home, so he went out to play with Maddie. During the game, he hit her in the eye with the ball, and she began to cry and scream. In a state of panic at home, fearing his father would return soon, he dragged the girl inside the house and hit her on the head with a baseball bat. Joshua hid the girl's body under his bed. Imagine the boy's feelings at that moment. He was arrested after his mother discovered Maddie's body. Phillips was tried as an adult, and the trial was moved from Duval County to Polk County due to concerns about publicity among the community. Phillips's lawyers did not call any witnesses, and even the defense advised his parents not to testify. Phillips did not speak during the trial. It took only 2 hours for the jury to convict Phillips, who was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of early parole. He was not eligible for the death penalty because he was under 16 years old. We cannot imagine how parents can bear the consequences of such a horrific situation. Number 2. Antonio Barbeau. Antonio Barbeau was only 14 years old when he, with the help of his friend, ended the life of an elderly woman. He used a small axe to attack the 78-year-old woman. Barbeau and his friend Nathan Pape were found guilty. It happened in a horrific way. The elderly woman did not suspect anything and invited her grandson and his friend into her home. But when she turned her back to call Antonio's mother, he struck her on the head with the axe. He ran to the bathroom and vomited, and when he returned, he saw his friend Pape hitting her with a hammer on the head of the grandmother while lying on the ground. What a chilling thing. Barbeau was sentenced to serve at least 36 years in prison. In 2013, he would be eligible for parole after serving the minimum term. It is noteworthy that Antonio tried to read an apology statement in court but couldn't hold back his tears and began to cry. He handed the statement to his lawyer, who also struggled to hold back tears after reading it. The judge stated that the sentence was the minimum for the crime. In the boy's defense, it is worth mentioning that Barbeau suffered a brain injury in 2009, which caused cognitive issues that played a role in his decision to commit the crime. However, his mental state was not sufficient to overlook the horrific nature of the crime. You may wonder about his friend? Well, Antonio's friend Pape claimed the attack was Antonio's idea. When both boys realized the grandmother was dead, they panicked and tried to drag her to the car, leaving a trail of blood behind. They couldn't load her into the car and left the body in the garage. They then stole some items, including a handbag containing money and jewelry. Number 1. Nicholas Cruz. The teenager who brought a firearm to Parkland School and took the lives of 17 people was officially sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On February 14, 2018, at around 2:21 p.m., near the end of the school day at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, staff and students heard fire alarm sounds and were required to leave the classrooms. As everyone began to exit, Cruz started shooting at those leaving the classrooms. Prosecutor Bill Nelson said the suspect was wearing a mask. Write in the comments which story of a teenager shocked you the most. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Did some of them deserve to be tried as adults, or they would have been given a second chance? See you in the next video. Bye for now.